A Michigan Republican tried and failed to blame a tax hike passed by his own party on the Democrats. State Representative Matt Hall, representing Michigan's 42nd district, posted for his followers a local news article stating that Michigan's income tax cut will not be permanent in 2024. He said, Lansing Democrats are raising your income taxes on New Year's Day to pay for their wasteful spending. You deserve relief from the high cost of living, not higher taxes. Okay, now here's the thing, okay, which immediately destroys his argument, like, wasteful spending. Okay, the reason that there was a tax cut in 2023 in the first place is because of a 2015 law that would temporarily decrease the income tax rate if revenue increased at a rate that exceeded the rate of inflation. Now, what does that mean? Basically, in 2022, under the Democrats, Michigan had a $9.2 billion budget surplus. They took in a lot of revenue. Now, that includes a $5.1 billion surplus in general fund and a $4.1 billion surplus in the school aid fund. Wow, that's pretty good. Now, as a result of having the surplus, the state income tax rate had been reduced from 4.25% to 4.5% for the year of 2023. It's temporary. It was only meant to last for that year. That was a broad tax cut that just automatically happened. Again, thanks to a 2015 Republican law. Now, a judge recently found that this tax cut is not permanent. It's going to go away. It's going to sunset. And so, therefore, 2024, that tax rate will go back up. Now, wait a minute. Well, he says, wow, see, the Democrats are raising your taxes. Well, no, but it's not the Democrats that have actually, signed that into law. Now, that said, you could make an argument that Democrats were not fighting to keep that tax cut in place. And that would be true, except for the fact that Democrats have signed in 2 tax cuts in 2023. So let me give you the details on that. So Governor Whitmer actually signed House Bill 4001 into law. Now, what does that do? Now, that new law increases the earned income tax credit from 6% to 30% at the federal level. That's retroactive to 2022. So this is after Rick Snyder, back in 2011, had actually cut the EITC from 20% down to that 6%. So wait, Republicans actually made it so that you couldn't get the earned as much in the earned income tax credit, which again affects working class people. That is a tax cut that actually helps working class people. Now, the change that she had put into place will now benefit 700,000 Michiganders annually earning about $57,000 or less, and they're expected to see an average of around $600 per an increase from that EITC boost. Now, Whitmer also undid a tax on retirement income. So, look, something that Rick Snyder had done is put a tax on people's retirement accounts. Okay? Very, very unpopular to tax pensions. Now, she undid that, which is a tax cut that could save about 500,000 households approximately $1,000 a year. That is pretty significant. Now, one of the other things that they tried to do is tried to send everybody $180 inflation relief checks. I know it's not much, but still, I could use $180, couldn't you? I mean, why not, right? Well, unfortunately, Republicans were like, sending Americans money? No, we can't have that.
Can't let that happen.
Funny enough, because it was actually the Trump administration that had sent people in, COVID checks to help them, during that time. But apparently can't have inflation relief checks. No, can't do it. Which is funny because, again, that actually was more of a Republican idea. I remember back in the Bush administration, they had sent people $300 to $600 checks for having a surplus. Here's your stimulating package. Here you go. It was called a stimulus package, but it was a stimulating package. It was stimulating everybody's package, right? That extra $300, not bad, right? It was a Republican idea. And yet Republicans in Michigan have a surplus, and they're like, no, we're not going to send that money back to the taxpayers to help them up with inflation, because that would look bad for us, right? Because Democrats are in charge. Oh, okay, great, yeah. So the question of who raised more taxes on working people, well, that sounds like Republicans, which completely, utterly destroys their messaging about this and their messaging about Democrats. Look, Democrats have been doing more tax cuts for working class and middle class people, whereas Republicans, their tax cuts, they have a specific trick that they use, right? Cutting taxes, yes, they'll do like a broad tax cut, but that benefits the rich more than anyone else. And again, that's the trick. This is how they play that game, right? Their policies are designed to hand out crumbs to average working people, right? And then benefit wealthy donors. Now, the thing about for example, the Trump tax cuts, right? That had tax cuts built in for middle and lower class that would sunset, go away. Whereas the tax cuts for the rich never go away. They never expire. So again, that's how they play that game, right? So it's a tiny sliver of relief for average working people, where the lion's share goes to the very, very rich. And say, for example, you get a 2% tax cut, right? And you're making $35,000 a year. Oh, you get about $700 additionally in savings, right? Cool. Yeah, that's great. If you're making $2 million a year and you get that same 2% off your tax bill, that's equal to about $40,000. That is more than the average working class person makes in a year. That's how much the rich get a tax cut. So that's how much they save. And that's why Republicans love the ideal of a flat tax. That's what that would be, right? That's why they salivate at the idea of getting rid of progressive taxation, because it benefits wealthy people far more. It's regressive, far more than the average person. Okay? So that said, Matt Hall got a lot of pushback for this. One person said, ooh, big bad Democrats cry comes out again. Hey, Matt, how about we wake up to the fact that a Republican legislature and a Republican governor signed that law? Oh, and what are you here for? Don't you have any leadership thoughts, or is it all about owning the libs? Another user wrote, your party put taxes on pensions. People haven't forgotten that. Yeah, they put a 4.25% tax on people's retirement, their pensions, that they earned through working all those years. That's some BS if I've ever seen one. It's amazing that Democrats do not shout that from the hills. Look, Republicans taxing your retirement. Oh, you thought you were going to retirement in dignity, but now you have to pay taxes. I mean, for all I know, maybe some of that messaging did happen during the Michigan Democrats campaign, and that's why they're in power now, because that's a really incredibly unpopular move. Now, this even got smoke from a Republican. Jeff Timmer, the former executive director of the Michigan Republican Party, also lambasted Mr. Matt Hall. He said, fun fact, the law numbnuts is referring to was passed by a Republican legislature and signed by a Republican governor. Oh, I love it.
Testicles.
Hey, numbnuts. We signed that. You remember that? Oh, wait. Look, the Michigan Republican Party is a complete and utter disaster. I've talked about all the different stories of, basically the different factions at each other's throats. I mean, you had the current chair of the Republican Party, Christina Kurman, who's insane. She's a crazy lady. I mean, just go back to some of the coverage, some of these examples that I've made about Karamo and the things that she has said, the things that she believes, and then all the different fighting. I mean, people going to fisticuffs. I mean, at party. I mean, it's just insanity. They've got nothing here. They're a complete and utter disaster. And now trying to blame Democrats for something that they didn't even do. It's just the icing on the cake, man. They're a mess. Speaking of the Democrats, one of them hit back. This is Austin Marsman, who wrote this on Tuesday. You know better, Matt. Rick Snyder signed this flawed legislation back in 2015, where Republicans had control of Lansing. Democrats are cleaning up the mess. Look, I would say the Democrats have been doing pretty well in Michigan, right? They got control, and they've been busy, right? Getting rid of some of the like anti-choice measures here, trying to do that, trying to expand women's rights, gay rights, and not only that, but again, signing reforms to car insurance. We had some of the highest car insurance rates in the country. People got money back for that and for overpaying from their insurance. So they actually had insurance companies sending people checks, which is pretty great. And you got all sorts of these tax cuts. The rollback of the tax on pensions. All that's great stuff. I'm not saying that their control has been perfect. You have the ones that poison Flint that are still free. That sucks. It's pisses me off. But at the same time, it's been a lot better in this state with the Republicans no longer in power. This is an example of how desperate these Republicans are to lie their way back into power. Just look at the facts and don't fall for it. If a Republican is speaking, odds are they're lying.